In this course, we're going to look at Multimedia Fusion 2.5, which is a 2D app and game creator. This is something I've used with my students for several years, and it's great because you can do a lot of things with it, but it's got a fairly easy learning curve. It doesn't involve a lot of coding. It's more of drag and drop logic. And so here on the ClickTeam Fusion website, you can see it. There's a free version, which I'm going to demonstrate with, and it's limited to only 3 frames or levels, and it's got a couple other limitations, but you can still build a lot of things with it. There's also a paid version, which I believe is $99 forever, or you can go to clickteam.com/1 year or educational versions, and you can get 1 full year of the full program for $25. So I give my students all 3 of those options, and they can use whatever they want to create their projects. And I have some do it with the free ones, and I have some do it with the 1 year, and I have some do it with the full license. And so here is ClickTeam Fusion 2.5. When you first open it, it might give you some options for tutorials, and if you would like to learn more, you can go to Help and you can go to Tutorial, and there are different tutorials. One that will show you how to do like a breakout game, how to use physics in your game, and there's a few others, right, that'll walk you through step-by-step how to create different games. One I typically start my students off with, I do a Pong game, I do a maze game, which I'll demonstrate in just a second, and then we do like a breakout, like a brick break type of game, which is this Choco Break game. And so you end up with a game that basically lets the students have a ball that bounces and a player that can bounce the ball back and break the bricks type of game. And so to start with, we need to start a brand new project. And like I said, we're going to first make a maze game, and then after this, I will demonstrate how to build a basic platformer game. And so we're going to start a new project by hitting this new little piece of paper, this new document, and we are first introduced to the storyboard editor, right? So this is your storyboard editor, and you can think of this as basically a level or a frame. In the free version, like I mentioned, you only get 3 frames. So if students want to have like a title screen, that will then only allow them to have 2 other levels. They would just need bigger levels, so they just have to get creative. And so this frame is a level. You can create more by clicking on the number, or you can, click on it again. It's going to open up to here. If you double click on your application, it'll take you back out to the same place. You can right click, you can delete it, and you can even duplicate frames, so you've got all the coding from your level and just change parts of it. But anyway, this is the storyboard editor. So you can come in here, you can rename if you want, things like that. Here's the base size, 640 by 480 pixels, which you can also change. If you click on the application and you come through the settings, you can change the size as well. But this is one we typically use. Once you're there, you can double click on your level or here, and that will take you into the frame editor. By default, your frame editor will probably look like this. This is your workspace, or the area, the playable area, the viewable area in your game. So the frame editor is where you drag and drop all your sprites and your backgrounds and all of those types of things. And so the last one to point out is your event editor, and that's this multi-checkered squared box here under window. And this is where you will do all of the coding for your game, all of the and if and or statements, like if the player hits the ground, stop type of a thing. And so you've got the storyboard editor, which is your levels. You've got the frame editor, which is where you put your sprites in, and you've got the event editor, which is where you do your coding. So let's go ahead and make our basic maze game. So here in the frame editor, I'm going to do a couple things that'll make this much faster and easier. I'm going to go to View, I'm going to go to Show Grid, and then I'm going to go back to View, and I want to snap to the grid as well. And then I've got these little squares, right? So I'm going to go ahead and insert a new object, and I'm going to, so you can do that by right clicking and go to insert new object. You can also hit Control J. I'm going to pick an active object, and I'm going to hit OK. And when I go ahead and click on that, you can see that perfectly fits into the size of those frames, and it snaps for me. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on that, and it will open up in what is called the frame editor. Yours will probably look like this. Mine is just full screen, and that's pretty small. If you want to zoom in on what you're doing, you hit the magnifying glass and you can just drag and zoom in. If you want to actually change the size of that sprite, you can hit this double arrow and you can put it in, but for now 32 by 32 is the size of that grid, and so I'm going to leave it. You could, if you wanted to, change the size of the grid here, but 32 by 32 is great for now. So I'm going to go double click on that, go back in. I'm actually going to clear this because I'm going to start making some walls. So I'm going to go ahead and clear my sprite completely. I'm going to go ahead and pick some sort of a color for the walls. So something like that. And then you can use your selection tool here. You've got your eyedropper, you've got a brush, a line, you got different shapes, you got a fill tool to fill in, text tool, erasers, you can rotate objects, things like that. So I'm going to take my paint bucket and just fill it, or I could take my rectangle tool and I can do an outline, like a stroke, I could do a fill color, or I can do both. I'm going to go and do both. I'm going to turn up the size a little bit, and I've got a gray and a black. That looks great. So if I click up here and drag, you can see what I get for my maze, right? That looks fine. So we'll use that for the walls. I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to take that, and I'm going to drag it and drop it up here in the corner. Now, you can copy and paste that. The faster way is if you hold down Control, you can just click and drag. There's an even faster way. If I right click on this, I can either clone an object or duplicate an object. They both will look like they do the same thing. Here's the difference. If I clone an object, right, it's going to give me a second copy, and you'll see that I've got a second sprite. So that way when I do the coding here, I'm going to have to do it for every single individual sprite. Sometimes that's good if you have enemies that need to do different things, but in this case, I don't want to code everything more than once. I just want to do it one time for all the walls. So I'm actually going to go back to here. I'm going to go ahead and delete this. In this case, I want to duplicate an object. So I'm going to go down, I think it's something around 16 rows down. And that's one too many, so I'm going to delete that. And then I'm going to go across. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate again. And so we'll just do one row with somewhere around 18 columns. And go ahead and hold down Control, drag a couple copies of that. Do the same thing again. 1 by, let's see, 20 this time. And then right here, I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to go something like 15. And there we go. We've got walls. Okay, the next part is coming in and actually creating the inner part of the maze. And rather than have you watch me do that the entire time, I'm going to maybe speed this up. But you'll want to start with, right, just holding down Control, dragging out the initial pieces you want to start with. So you're just holding down Control and starting to create your maze. Okay, once you've got your maze created, next thing that you're going to want to do is go ahead and create some sort of ball or some sort of object to move through your maze. So once again, we're going to go ahead and right click and insert an object, and we'll pick an active. Go ahead and select where you want that to start. Double click on it, and same thing, we're going to clear this off. We're going to get the ellipse tool and create some sort of object here. Something like that. And then if you want to, you can try to, make it look a little more three-dimensional. Maybe I'm going to get a bit lighter of a spot here. Create a little bit of a highlight on it and go ahead and hit OK. So it looks great. Okay, from there, we need this thing to be able to move. If I go ahead and play my game, right, run the application, that's right here. F7 is a shortcut. If I click that, you can see the frame will actually run. I hit the arrow keys, nothing happens. The icon next to it which is F8, that will run everything. So F7 runs the current frame or level only, and F8 or the other icon will start at the beginning and run through every single level in a row. So if you beat the level and you expect to go on to the next level, but you've only run it with this, it's not going to work. So next thing we need to do is give this some properties. So anything I select will have the properties show up for it here in the properties panel. So if I click on my player, right, I can go to the player, and I can then go to the movement type, which is this little running man. And here in the type, it's static, which is why it's not moving. I've got bouncing ball, I've got path, I've got mouse control. There's a lot of different things you can use here. In this case, we're going to use the arrow key, so I'm going to do 8 directions. And you've got the options. If you want to limit it to just up, down, left, and right, you can. There's a lot of different options. You can clear it, you can add them all, you can add them individually, things like that. But once you've got that selected and you run the frame, you can see now we have a ball that moves, but it actually just goes through all of the walls, which is not very helpful. And so next thing we're going to do is go ahead and make it so that it bounces when it hits the walls. First, actually, I just noticed as well, got some gaps here in the walls, so I'm going to go ahead and select all those pieces and try to make that a little more like a maze, maybe something like that. Okay, so what we want to do is go into the event editor, and I'm going to do a new condition. I'm going to click on this, and my condition has to do with the ball. So I'm going to right click on the ball, and I'm going to say when the ball collides with another object, which is the wall. And so when there's a collision between the ball and the wall, what do I want to happen? I want the ball to stop. You could put bounce in. Stop's going to probably work better in this case. And so when the ball hits a wall, the ball should stop. It should no longer go through those walls. So let's go ahead and try that. So when I run it, you can see it doesn't do anything. It just stops. Okay. If you notice, like I'm noticing, this is really hard to get this through. You can always shrink your sprite slightly. This is just a little bit too tight. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to my frame editor. I'm going to click on this. I'm going to select with my selection tool everything, and I'm going to go ahead and just shrink this down just a little bit. Move that more to the center. In fact, let's go down just a little bit there. Something like that. And now when I play it, it should fit much better. So there we go. Okay, so now I can actually get to the maze and everything is working out well. Okay, next thing I need to do is create a goal for my ball to get to. So down here in the bottom, we'll create some sort of goal. So I'm going to go ahead and insert an object. Let's choose an active again. An active gives the most properties and the most control. But there are a lot of different things in here with scores and lives and backgrounds and counters and things like that. We'll use a few of those. We're going to choose active. I'm going to go ahead and click. I'm going to double click and we're going to clear this. And just to make this fast, let's just quickly draw some sort of star. And that's where we're headed to, is that great looking star. I'm going to take my paint bucket and try to fill this in very quickly. So that's where we're going, is to that star. Okay, that's our goal. All right, so when we get there, we're going to have the game end, right? So maybe let's create another frame. Let's go back to the application. I'm going to do more. I'm going to go to this frame, and we're going to insert an object. Let's do, we're going to do a string, like a text string, and we'll just put a UN. If I select that in the properties down here, I can go into the text options. I can change, the font style and all those kind of things. Let's just do something easy. There are quite a few options here to choose from. Let's do Arial bold. We'll make it quite a bit bigger. Right, and if it doesn't fit, it's because your text box is too small. You can click on it once, click on it twice, and then you can resize it as needed. Well, there we go. We'll just UN right in the middle. That looks great. That's all we need. So back to frame one. So now we're we're going to say if the ball hits the star, we want it to go to the next frame. So we'll go back into our event editor, new condition, right click on the ball. If the ball collides with another object, which is the star, then we will go to this option. This is your storyboard controls. So you've got your special, you've got your sound, storyboard, you've got your timing, creating new objects like spawning objects, your mouse and keyboard. This is player, and then all the sprites that you add will come here. So these will always be there. So I'm going to go to the storyboard controls. So if the ball hits the star, right click on storyboard controls and you can go to the next frame, or you can jump to a frame if it's not the next one. Either of those will work here. I'm going to jump to frame 2. So, and then what I like to do when I'm testing, so I don't have to run through the whole maze, I'm just going to move the ball for now. And if I play that, when I get there, right, nothing is happening. Why? Let's see. Maybe it's because I did not run the entire application. I just ran the frame. So let's go ahead and click on that. Come down. When I touch it, you'll see it goes to the next frame. So it's actually working. Okay. So let's go ahead and put the ball back to the beginning. And now we just need a little bit extra. So let's go ahead and add a background to this, and then we'll add a timer, and we'll call it good. So I'm going to go ahead and right-click, insert an object, and we'll do let's go to back. Let's try a quick backdrop. I'm going to click, and I'm going to just line this up. And because it's a quick backdrop, it does not have many properties, and it automatically will go behind all of my other stuff. So click, there we go. Just gonna get this to fit behind everything else. And this has some different options with it. You can, with the quick backdrop, it can be a solid color, it can be a motif, meaning you can draw your own background. If you click on that, you can edit it and go draw your own. Or you can do something simple like a quick gradient. We can change it to vertical, you can change the colors, and maybe let's just make that a little lighter. We'll call that good for the gradient. Okay, last thing we're going to do is add a timer. So we have a certain time to get through the maze. To do that, I'm going to right click up here. I'm going to insert an object, and I'm going to choose counter. I'm going to put that where I'd like it to go. I'm going to put that in the corner right there. And then I want to set the parameters for that timer. In the properties, I'm going to set the initial value to maybe 10 seconds. The minimum value is 0, and the maximum value is 10. Okay, and if I play this, it's not going to do anything. It's just going to sit there. So now I need to make it run. So in the event editor, new condition, and I'm going to go to the timer. I'm going to say every 1 second. So every 1 second, something's going to happen. So every 1 second, I want to take away 1 from the timer, so it functions like a timer. So I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to subtract from the counter. I'm going to take 1 away. Whoops. Let's try it again. Subtract from counter. Hit 1. Hit OK. So every second, it's going to take 1 away from the counter. So if I play it, you can see it's now counting down. Once it gets to 0, it's not actually going to do anything. It's just going to sit there. Okay, now we need to tell it what to do. So we're then going to check the counter. So I'm going to right-click on the counter, and we're going to compare the counter's value. So I'm going to say if it's equal to 0, so if the counter equals 0, we want some things to happen. So maybe number 1, I want to reset the position of the ball. So if I'm not to the end, it's going to kick me back to the beginning. So I'm going to right-click under the ball. I'm going to go to position, and I'm going to select a position, and it should show me, there it is in the middle. I actually want it to start right back here where it started. So if it hits 0, it's going to set the ball back at that position, and then I want to reset the counter also. So I can right-click under the counter, and I can set the counter back to 10. So let's give that a try. I'm going to just kind of go slowly through the maze here. Three, 2, 1. I didn't make it. It sets me back to the beginning, right? And so if you don't like it, if that's, the time is, not exactly where you want it, you can go change the time and things like that. And then just for the sake of being quick here, I'm going to go ahead and move my ball a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and play the game. And when I get to the star at the end, I hit it and nothing happens, and that is because I did not run the whole game, the whole application. So let's try that again. So I hit down to the star and I hit it and I win. So that's the basics of how you can make a maze game. When you're finished, this is just a project file. So if you want to actually have it as an executable file like a game, you can do that on the other version of the game. So you can go to File, Build, Application, and in this case, for the free version, you can only build HTML5 projects. In the paid version, you can also build executable. So I usually always just have my students turn in the application itself. But that is how you build a maze game. And next, we're going to look at how to build a basic platformer game.